It's the Chronicles of a Gooner, the Arsenal podcast, and we are live. You're listening to the Chronicles of a Gooner, the Arsenal podcast.
I'm Martin Tyler, and you're listening to Harry Symeou.
Hello, good afternoon, and welcome back to another live edition of the Chronicles of a Gooner, the Arsenal podcast, brought to you by 90 Min. As ever, I'm your host, Harry Symeou, and on this edition, we're going to be continuing our reaction to that crazy game that took place at the London Stadium yesterday. West Ham United 3, Arsenal 3 in the end, despite the Gunners going down by 3-0 inside half an hour. So we've got lots and lots to discuss off the back of that one. We'll be touching a little bit on Mikel Arteta's post-match press conference, but I want to focus really on one player in particular, and that player is the Norwegian wizard, Martin Odegaard, because I've been so impressed with him since he's come to the football club. I think he's been sensational. I think he's been a breath of fresh air. We obviously are delighted to see him performing at such a high level. The worry is, of course, that with each great performance that Martin Odegaard puts in, you start to wonder how high that asking price that Real Madrid set come the summer is going to be. Now, I still am quietly confident that a deal can be done, and I'm still quietly confident based on the fact that Zinedine Zidane just doesn't fancy him. And I think that Real Madrid have got other transfer targets. We hear a lot about the whole Kylian Mbappe link. We know that Kylian Mbappe is apparently going to be offered a new contract by Paris Saint-Germain. But we also know that Kylian Mbappe is probably quite desperate to go and test himself and prove himself in a stronger league. So I wouldn't rule out Real Madrid signing Kylian Mbappe this summer. And listen, if they're going to sign Kylian Mbappe, given the financial situation they currently find themselves in, then they're going to need to get all the money they can get. And I've talked about it in the past. I felt around 35 million would probably do it for Martin Odegaard. And I'm sure that, as I keep saying, with every good performance, that price will be creeping higher and higher up. But, the guy has just been an absolute revelation, particularly in the last few weeks, where he's really settled in. And you can see, the Olympiacos game, the second leg where he didn't play and he came on as a substitute, I think was the clearest indication yet that without him, we're just nowhere near the same side, particularly in a creative sense. I think I'm gonna park the Ødegaard talk for a minute because I want to go over to the live comments. I want to see what you guys are saying on Ødegaard, but I also want to just quickly touch on Mikel Arteta's post-match press conference, and I'm going to focus. I'm going to touch on all of it, but I'll circle back round to the Ødegaard bit, and then I'm going to bring up some tactical bits on the screen that I want to share with you guys that are watching on the video. Don't worry if you're listening via the audio. I will try and make it as clear as possible. Big hello to everybody in the live chat at the moment, because there are lots of you there. Big hello to Xander, to Femi, to Graham, to Pratik, to Saeed, to Alfonso, to Aaron, who says incredible insights and analysis and tireless work on creating content week in, week out. Big fan of the channel from sunny Dubai. Aaron, thank you so much, mate, for your very, very kind words. And it's sunny here in London today as well. Unfortunately, though, as you can see by the fact I've had to throw my hoodie on top, it's not very warm. Maybe it's a little bit better if you're sitting in the sun, but yeah, still a long way to go before we can call it sunny London. But big hello to you, Aaron. Let's see what you guys are saying on the whole Ødegaard thing. And Pratik says, I really think we have a chance of getting him. Real Madrid are not in an optimum financial position as other Spanish clubs. And if we offer the right money, it's a real possibility that they accept. Xander says, should Arsenal do a similar deal that Spurs done with Reguilon and add a buyback clause? Listen, if it will help us get the deal over the line, then I wouldn't be dead against it. I'd prefer that we didn't have one, because you look at somebody like Sergio Reguilon, and listen, for what it's worth, I don't think Real Madrid would ever exercise that buyback clause on Sergio Reguilon, but I wouldn't like to have it there, if I'm honest. But if it's a last resort and it's the only way we're going to get a Martin Odegaard deal over the line, then of course I'd consider it. Elliot says that literally he's been brilliant since he came in. The intelligence and know-how where his teammates are always 2 or 3 steps ahead. He's the real MO10, except he wears 11. But yeah, get what you mean. What else have we got here in terms of your comments? Big hello to Vinesh. Big hello to Jashar as well. Big hello to Charles. Vinesh says, Harry, can you please smoke both the Spurs fans on today's 90-minute gas tank episode? Don't forget, the gas tank is back today. We're going live at 4:10 p.m. So I'll be part of the panel on there today. So looking forward to discussing the game, of course. Marble Halls TV says he has what it takes to cut it in the PL. I'm fearful that Zizou might keep him, especially as Modric is old now. Ferradoon says, I remember some Arsenal fans were suggesting the number 10 position is dead. That's been a really strange narrative, not just from Arsenal fans, though, Ferradoon. I've seen a lot of people saying that over the last 12, 18 months or so. Probably since Liverpool became this dominant force. You know, when Liverpool went on and dominated the Premier League last season, everybody was going, but they don't play with the number 10. And therefore, the number 10 position is dead. No, actually, what Martin Odegaard has shown is the number 10 position is very much still alive. But on top of that, you know, it's probably changed a little bit. It's probably adapted a little bit. You're probably looking at someone now who isn't just a luxury player, someone who will press and will harry and will work hard. And that is exactly what Martin Odegaard does in that position. And that's why he's so useful. And he is the type of number 10 that Mikel Arteta clearly wanted. He didn't trust in Mesut Özil to give him the physical side of the game. He didn't trust in Mesut Özil's attitude. And I was talking to Graham Brooks in a WhatsApp group that we're on. You'll all know Graham. Returning to the same old Arsenal tonight, by the way. Graham is back, so make sure you tune into the same old Arsenal tonight at 7 p.m. UK time. Graham will be back joining us. But he basically summed it up in a nutshell and actually inspired a piece that I wrote today, which should be going out on 90min.com at some point this afternoon, around the fact that Martin Odegaard is actually everything that Mikel Arteta wanted Mesut Özil to be. But for a number of reasons, that didn't come to fruition. So I highlight the differences between the two, and I highlight the similarities between the two, because there are some. So that was an interesting piece to do. So check that out on 90min.com a little bit later on. But yeah, Graham Brooks inspired me to write that one. And he will be back on the Same Old Arsenal podcast tonight. So make sure you check it out. Head over to the channel and subscribe to it if you haven't already. Vinesh says, Harry, don't you think Martin will have the final say? I think that Martin himself will have a massive part to play in this. Yes, I think that if he makes it very, very clear and he's willing to sign for Arsenal permanently, then I think that Real Madrid will see that as another reason not to keep him. I think that Real Madrid will, I'm not going to say bow down to his demands, but I think his influence on this deal could be big and significant. And it's not just a case of Real Madrid. I think that if they've got a player on their hands who clearly doesn't want to be there, and if he's got a good agent and they can find a way of convincing Real Madrid to play ball with Arsenal, then yeah, of course he can have a massive say. I think it will play a part. I think the fact that he probably wants to get out of Real Madrid and probably wants to end what's been a little bit of a nightmare. Maybe nightmare is the wrong word, because playing for Real Madrid, playing for such a prestigious football club, getting the chance to go there at the age of 16 is by no means a nightmare. It's what kids dream of. But what I will say is that he will feel that his career has stagnated a little bit. He will feel that had he been at a club where he was going to be given more opportunities and actually felt at home rather than being shipped out on loan here, there and everywhere, he might feel that he would be at a better level now than he is currently. And that's not, to take away from his current level. I think he's fantastic. on the other hand, it would have shaped him. It would have taught him to be resilient mentally, and I think mentally he's top notch. And I think that Mikel Arteta's talked about it time and time again. He's talked about this essentially. He's 22 years old. He's a kid. He's talked about the fact that he has some real mental strength. He has a real desire to succeed. And as I said, at the time when the deal was confirmed, at the time we were linked with Martin Odegaard, I talked about, for me, the main reason that this felt like it made sense was because this was somebody who would be coming to Arsenal with a point to prove. This wasn't somebody in the twilight years of his career. This wasn't somebody who had become comfortable over the last 4 or 5 years and was coming for a bit of a holiday to North London. Not that you'd come to North London for a holiday, but you know what I mean. Martin Odegaard was coming here with a point to prove. And up until now, he has shown, or he has proven that point, hasn't he? He's been brilliant. Charles Krebs says we are having to broker a deal with little to no leverage. The only card Arsenal hold is the player's comfortability. So the deal truly rests on Madrid's plans. But look, I guess the way of looking at it is this. Martin Odegaard has gone and performed at other clubs during his Real Madrid tenure. He was very good at Real Sociedad. He was pretty decent when he went on loan to the Netherlands as well. Okay, it's not been at Premier League level. It's not been always at the standard of which he's shown at Arsenal. But the fact is that he's been on the books at Real Madrid for a while and never got a look in. I'm not sure, given their other plans, given what their other focuses are going into the transfer window this summer, I'm not sure that Real Madrid will be so impressed by what they've seen from Martin Odegaard at Arsenal that a deal around about 35 to 40 million euros wouldn't tempt them into selling. That's just my personal opinion. But that's how I feel about it. I think there is some leverage, and that leverage is the fact that Real Madrid need money. You got to remember, as powerful of a football club as Real Madrid are, as Barcelona are, La Liga has been seriously damaged by the coronavirus. The pandemic has had an even bigger, greater impact on the foreign leagues, I would say, than the Premier League. Because why? The TV deals, which are still running here in England, of course, because the games are all televised at the moment, are far less significant from a monetary perspective in Spain, in Italy, in Germany, than they are here in the UK. So if you're looking at Premier League clubs struggling, top-end Premier League clubs struggling, then you can bet your bottom dollar that Real Madrid are not in a position to be overly fussy and overly demanding, about the transfer fee that they're going to ask for him. Let's and this is another great point as well that Xander raises. Odegaard has played more minutes for Arsenal than he has in his entire Madrid career so far. So he's really found a home here, and fingers crossed we can get that deal done. Look, there's no point sweating about it. There's no point stressing about it because it's out of our hands as supporters. But what I will say is enjoy watching Martin Odegaard in an Arsenal shirt for the rest of the season, at least, because he is a joy to watch. Technically fantastic, physically brilliant, mentally tough. I really, really like him. Let's move on and talk a little bit about Mikel Arteta's post-match comments, and then I want to show you guys or go into a couple of bits about Ødegaard and the way I think he opens up opposition. And I'm gonna focus on the Ødegaard bits because they were the best bits, right? We all heard what Mikel Arteta said off the back of the performance. He talked about that first half an hour, giving him nightmares, and I completely agree with that. But when talking about Martin Odegaard specifically in his post-match press conference, this is what Mikel had to say on the Norwegian. He said, "I think he had an incredible performance. He was very intelligent, the way he reads the game, the way he affected the game, and again, he showed how much he wants to win. When everyone," and this is the quote for me, "when everyone else was a little bit trembling, he gave us that composure on the ball and he created chance after chance. I love talented and creative players that all the time are willing to take that ball and make things happen, that are mobile and are also hard-working. He is one of them. We have some others with different qualities, but it's true that Martin is now giving us a different level on certain things we didn't have." He said he's been showing from week one in terms of his leadership qualities. When he steps onto that pitch, he always wants the ball. He commands the pressing and he's been really influential. I think we are all happily surprised because he looks shy and humble. But when he steps on that pitch, he is a real character. He loves to play football. So lots of really strong comments from Mikel Arteta that suggest that he is well into the player, will want to sign him. We heard reports a few weeks ago that Mikel Arteta had already gone and made it known to the club's hierarchy that he wanted to pursue a permanent deal for Martin Odegaard. And I know that the structure at Arsenal is a little bit different to our other clubs at the moment. We know that Mikel Arteta is the manager and not the head coach. And we know that he and Edu will oversee the transfer activity. So, that gives me faith and confidence that if the manager is really liking this guy, if it is physically possible, if it is possible from a financial standpoint, Arsenal will do it. And I know I've been through the quotes, but there's just a couple that I just want to pick out again. When everybody else was trembling, he gave us that composure on the ball and he created chance after chance. We have others with different qualities, but it's true that Martin is now giving us a different level on certain things we didn't have. So Mikel Arteta recognizing that he's giving us something very different, recognizing his importance, recognizing how good he's been of late. And that's why Arsenal fans are absolutely loving this guy, despite the fact he's only played, 12, 13 games in an Arsenal shirt. So yeah, really, really pleased from what we've seen from Martin Odegaard so far. And fingers crossed that deal does get done. But just to go into a little bit of a more tactical perspective, because I want to do that. I want to show you guys why I have been so impressed with Martin Odegaard. And obviously, I want to hear from you in the comments as well. Probably a good time to remind you, actually, before I dive into that, to make sure that you do hit the like button if you haven't already. Make sure you do subscribe to the channel if you are new. Make sure you do check out our membership scheme by clicking on the link in the description. And that this show is kindly sponsored by Manscaped. So if your nether regions are in need of some tender loving care, head over to manscaped.com and you can enter our discount code, which is rolling across the bottom of the screen. And it's in the description. It's 90min20. That's 90min20. And you'll receive not just free shipping on your order, but 20% off as well. And you can stand to save a significant amount of money on any of their products. If you've got any any birthdays, any celebrations, if you need to buy gifts for anyone coming up, I find Manscaped is a great route to go down because it's light-hearted, but it's also got a very real purpose as well. So check it out. Right, let's go over to the tactics board, the famous tactics board. I get a lot of stick actually for this tactics board on social media sometimes, but I love it because it allows me to demonstrate things that I want to demonstrate that I maybe wouldn't be able to do without it. So let me just make that full screen. So you can see here, this is how Arsenal lined up yesterday. We went through it on the review show, but it was Leno in goal, Chambers, Louise, Marie, Tierney, Partey and Xhaka were the midfield pivot. Ødegaard was in the number 10 position. Aubameyang actually started from the right. Saka started from the left, and Lacazette led the line. Let's have a look at how West Ham lined up. And I'm not going to name the individual players, right? Because it's West Ham and we don't really care, to be quite honest. But they lined up they played in what looks like a 4-2-3-1. And that's what they've been playing with for pretty much all season. They use the likes of Lingard, Ben Rama, Jared Bowen, and they can all rotate those three. They can all be very fluid in that sort of three behind Michail Antonio up front. But what I think is a key feature of what West Ham United do is this, right? When they're back defending, Thomas Souček, who gets into forward attacking positions so frequently, he's their top scorer in the Premier League, chipped in with another goal yesterday. He sits and drops, doesn't he, and protects that back four, as does Declan Rice, because what West Ham United want you to do, and I'll use the Arsenal players, I'll put them in their positions to demonstrate this. What they want you to do is they want to force you wide. They want to get you in the wide areas. You'll see the fullbacks tuck in when they're defending, and you'll see those two, Souček and Rice, create a protective screen. And the idea is to stop you breaching them through the middle. You can have the ball out on the left wing. You can have the ball out on the right wing. And they will back every day of the week Issa Diop and Craig Dawson to drop deep almost in line with their penalty spot and deal with the crossing threat because that's what they're comfortable in doing. They don't want to be run at. They don't want somebody with trickery and guile in and amongst them. West Ham create this really impressive screen, and what you end up seeing as well, because they work so hard, is you see their fullbacks, their wingers drop back as well. And what you get from David Moyes' side out of possession is very much two banks of four. Old school, traditional David Moyes. That's the way he likes to play. Two narrow banks of four. That's how West Ham defend certain situations. But what Martin Odegaard did brilliantly was, even when faced with a defensive screen of two defensive midfielders and two centre-backs in the central areas, he still made things happen for me. And that was what was most impressive. And I'm talking about this area here, the area that I've highlighted. That is Martin Odegaard's domain. That is where he likes to operate. And he does it so brilliantly. Now, to have the composure, to have the touch, to be able to receive the ball in those kind of areas and know that you're going to be closed down by one, maybe even two defensive midfielders. Know that even if you manage to escape their attentions and skip beyond them and get onto the centre-backs, you've got another line of defence to breach. I think it takes outstanding technical ability and confidence to demand the ball in that area all the time. We've seen it far too much over the last 12 months or so, where Arsenal have been unable to breach teams that way because they haven't had a player who has that ability or that confidence or that desire to pick up the ball in those areas. And we've been forced out to the wide positions. It's why prior to Martin Odegaard's arrival at Arsenal, we were forever seeing the Gunners throw balls into the penalty box to no avail. We were constantly seeing Kieran Tierney get forward on the outside of the player playing from the left. We were constantly seeing Bellerin or whoever it was doing that as well. And that's not to say we didn't do that yesterday, because Callum Chambers got forward, didn't he? Very frequently, and got 2 assists. You know, the first ball into the box where he picked out Lacazette, and the second one, of course, which was deflected into the goal by Craig Dawson. But having Martin Odegaard in that team gives us options now. We don't have to just play in one way. It's not just about the overloads in the wide areas. It's about having options and having alternatives and finding different ways to break people down. And with Ødegaard in the side, even more so than with Emile Smith-Rowe in the side, and that's not to take anything away from Emile Smith-Rowe. I said it at the time. I felt that Martin Odegaard, when we signed him, was going to be at a slightly better level. He's more experienced, and you know, you're starting to see that now. But I just think that Ødegaard gives us an ability to change it up, to play different ways. And I love that even if he's not going to get involved in the play, even if he's not going to receive the ball, just the sheer threat of him. And the fact that people have watched this guy now for a few months in the Premier League and gone, you know what, this lad is a player. It diverts attention from those wide areas, doesn't it? It sucks people in. And when we do get in the wide areas, you'll often see that people like Lacazette, for example, who just check their runs back, will find a little bit more space because those players are reluctant to drop in and leave Martin Odegaard alone. So I think he just adds a completely different dimension into our team. And what I also love about Martin Odegaard, and I'm going to try, and I wish there was a way of like resetting this, but I'm still not a complete expert on using this thing. If I just try to put the Arsenal players back into shape, there was an instance in the second half. In fact, it was the second goal where Callum Chambers got down the right-hand side and Aubameyang was on the left by this point. Saka was playing on the right. I didn't think Saka had a great game, but you know, that's another subject for another day. But when Saka was back defending, Martin Odegaard had the presence of mind to drop into a position like this, right? Just slightly to the right of centre. And when he receives the ball in that position, he receives it with the view to driving inside. He receives it with a view to getting to attacking that penalty spot. And with Martin Odegaard, what I love about him is he's always looking to hit the centre of the goal. You know, when he receives the ball, that's his aim. If he can pick out a different pass, if he can find someone else in a better position, then so be it. And he will do it. You know, he's not reluctant to do that. But in Ødegaard doing that, in Ødegaard stepping in field when he received that ball, he sucked in the West Ham players who were trying to maintain that narrow back four. The second bank of four as well. They were trying to maintain two banks of four. But with Martin Odegaard stepping inside, what he did was he drew West Ham too narrow. And that was a problem for them, because when Callum Chambers broke forward down the right-hand side, Martin Odegaard played a delicious reverse pass. It was very cleverly executed, very cleverly disguised. But even having dragged everybody in field, and it looked as though he only had one thing on his mind. Perhaps he'd have played the ball out to the left. Actually, Martin Odegaard was fully 100% aware of the run that Callum Chambers had made. And that smart reverse pass, that smart disguised reverse pass, is what picked out Callum Chambers. And when he put that great delivery into the penalty area, any touch on that was going to see it hit the back of the net. And unfortunately for West Ham, and for Craig Dawson, it was him that got that touch. So there's just a couple of points on Martin Odegaard's game, and the fact that I think he just gives us another element to our attack. He adds another dimension because he does occupy that central space, and even under immense pressure, he is able to retain possession for us. Why? Because he's energetic enough, because he's technically good enough, because he's confident enough to turn around and dribble past someone and spin away from someone. He's got that awareness of what's going on around him all the time. It is so difficult to receive the ball in that kind of position when a team are packed out at the back the way West Ham were at certain points in the game yesterday, and retain possession. But if you can retain possession, you are attracting so much attention to yourself that you will, if you have the presence of mind and the ability to execute, you will be able to pick out players in different positions, create overloads, and create goal scoring opportunities. And he did that yesterday time and time again. A few people have compared him to Mesut Özil, and I think you can compare him to peak Mesut Özil, right? But we weren't seeing this from Mesut Özil in the latter stages of his Arsenal career with any consistency. But aside from the fact that they're both technically brilliant, they both got a wand of a left foot, they both see passes that other people wouldn't see, it's Martin Odegaard's attitude and physical attributes that set him aside from Mesut Özil right now, that make him the right option. That make him the right option for Mikel Arteta, and make him the ideal number 10 for somebody like Mikel Arteta, because he fits into the overall and wider game plan, and he isn't just a luxury player. Ekene, he said yesterday I didn't read out his comment, so I'm going to read out this comment. He says, Harry, can you now see why you defending Özil... Let me start again. Harry, can you now see why your Özil defense is taking the piss out of your listener? Please, can you stop doing that? No, because my Özil defense at the time was based around the fact that we didn't have a number 10 in the side. Prior to the emergence of Emile Smith-Rowe, who didn't get a look in for a number of reasons, partly because he wasn't selected and partly because he was injured at times, Emile Smith-Rowe wasn't on the scene under Mikel Arteta until Christmas. And leading up to Christmas, Arsenal couldn't create a chance to save their lives. And they had their most creative player. And you could argue that Martin Odegaard is of a much higher level, and Martin Odegaard is an upgrade on Özil currently. And I'd agree with that. But at the time, we only had Mesut Özil. And instead of trying to play with the number 10 and the system that Mikel Arteta clearly now feels is the right one, he froze Mesut Özil out completely and played without a number 10 and played with a back five. So at the time, the defense of Mesut Özil, and why I felt that he should at the very least have been in the squad, was fully justified. And I won't go back on that because it was justified. Things have changed now. Emile Smith-Rowe has emerged. Arsenal's system has changed. Mikel Arteta was almost forced into changing that system because of a lack of creativity. Now Odegaard's at the club. You won't catch me saying that Mesut Özil should have been playing ahead of him. But when we had nobody else, Mesut Özil was an option that we chose to overlook for whatever reason. But it wasn't taking the piss out of the listeners to have that opinion. That was my opinion at the time. And even in hindsight, it was still, in my opinion, the right view to take at that point. So no, I'm not going to go back on. I'm not going to go back on that viewpoint, because at the time it was absolutely justified. It's still justified now, in my view. If you disagree, that's absolutely fine. But to say it's taking the piss out of the listeners, I don't think that's fair, because the This channel is built on me sharing my views on the Arsenal and exchanging those views with you guys and having discussion in the chat. So to suggest that it's taking the piss out of you is sorry, a little bit over the top in my opinion. Vinesh says, Harry, what's your opinion on Arteta deploying a 4-3-3 for the first time in his managerial career? As I've already kind of touched on, I do feel like it was stumbled upon. I do feel like he got to the point where we were so poor, from a creative standpoint, that he kind of had to do something to change that. And he did, and it worked. And the performances have been on an upward trajectory for the most part ever since then. Of course, there have been dips. Of course, there have been disappointing displays, disappointing results. We all know that. But I do think this is the way. I don't think it is a 4-3-3, Vinesh. I think it's a 4-2-3-1. And I think it could become a 4-3-3 maybe later on. But I think with Thomas Partey and Granit Xhaka operating like a double pivot, I don't think it's a 4-3-3. I think it's a 4-2-3-1. That's my view. SP says, I feel Ødegaard is like Özil plus defending. What do you think? Yeah, that's it. You know, look, let's not try and, just because of the way he left the club and because he's gone, let's not take away from the fact that Özil technically was a fucking genius, because he was one of the best number 10s of his generation. But as I've already touched upon, he doesn't bring you the physical side of the game that Mikel Arteta regards as a non-negotiable. He doesn't bring you pressing. He doesn't work hard. He doesn't track back. He's a luxury player. And Mesut Özil is the mold of number 10 that we were maybe seeing 5-6 years ago, where I agree that the number 10 position is a little, I agree that the number 10 position is a little bit different to what it was maybe 4 or 5 years ago, but it isn't dead, in my opinion. Right, let's get your questions in the live chat. Got around about 10 minutes to go. So get your questions in. I'll come to as many of those as I possibly can between now and the end of the show. And my apologies, actually, because I misunderstood Vinesh's question where he said about the 4-3-3. He's talking about after the Emile Smith-Rowe substitution. My apologies, I didn't pick that up initially. I actually think that didn't work. And I actually think Arsenal had a better chance of winning the game had we stayed the way we were. Touched on it on the review show yesterday. I feel like sometimes in your desperation to score a goal, by substituting midfielders who are so key to you winning the ball back and controlling a certain area of the pitch, I think that actually you lose something and you lose the control of the game. And I do think that was the case yesterday. I think it was Mikel Arteta desperately trying to get a goal. And look, at the end of the day, we nicked the goal and that's great. But I do think that we actually lost a little bit in terms of our dominance at that point when Granit Xhaka went off. So apologies, because I mistook your question. I thought you were talking about the initial setup. I didn't realize you meant after the substitution. But yeah, after the substitution, there was a change. There was a shift to a 4-3-3. And me personally, I wasn't too keen on it. Although I can't really go in on Mikel Arteta off the back of that, because ultimately we got the result, didn't we? So it's happy days for everyone involved. But I'm not sure that move actually enhanced us. I thought we probably would have scored that goal anyway because we were so dominant at that point. But yeah, interesting to see it. And it's a different option, isn't it? Jay Dubia says, what do you think about Liverpool sniffing around Ødegaard? Look, it's natural, isn't it, that the better he performs, the more clubs are going to be interested, the more radars he's going to appear on. But I think the fact that he's already at Arsenal, he's very happy at Arsenal, I think stands us in very good stead. We also have a pretty good relationship with Real Madrid as well. And fingers crossed that all of that combined is enough to get the deal over the line. Adam Chisholm says, why do you think it took so long for Oba to be subbed? I said it on the watch along. I said it on the reaction show. I probably felt that substitution actually happened 15 minutes too late. Now, I get that you want to keep him on for as long as possible because despite his faults, despite the criticism that's come his way of late, I think we can all agree that Pierre-Emerick Aubameyang is still probably Arsenal's biggest goal threat. So I get the need to, or the wanting to leave him on. And I actually think as much as Mikel Arteta says that the situation in the North London derby has been brushed under the carpet and dealt with and moved on from, I actually think that had Had Pierre-Emerick Aubameyang not done that, I don't think he gets substituted in a game like yesterday's at a time when we're chasing the goal. But I think that Mikel Arteta has gone, well, all of that is still in my mind, despite him saying it isn't. And he's gone, well, you're not playing very well today. So sorry, mate. See you later. And I actually like that he made that substitution. I thought it showed balls. Aubameyang didn't look too pleased about it. But then, of course, the goal went in when he was still making his way around the pitch and he jumped into the celebrations. But I thought it showed balls and I thought it showed stomach from Mikel Arteta to make that change at a time when Arsenal were chasing the goal. Because look, had we not got that goal, you can be sure there'd have been some Arsenal fans out there who went, well, why'd you take off Aubameyang? But yeah, I thought it was the right decision. Me personally, I'd have made it 10, 15 minutes earlier for sure. Big thank you to Mark Neighbour for your very, very kind super chat donation. Thank you so much. Really appreciate it. Thank you for supporting the content. He says, Ødegaard, Oba, Laka, Emil Smith-Rowe, Saka, Martinelli, Balogun, Willian, Pepe. They cannot all play and people forget that. It's 9 players for 3 or 4 positions fighting for places, but it is now a top heavy for a squad of 25. Interesting point. I take the point on board because I've beaten the drum about Martinelli where I've gone, you can moan that he's not playing as much as you'd like, but there is a lot of competition in those areas at the moment. So I completely agree with you. We are top heavy in those positions. And I think we're actually quite well stocked in defence as well. I think where we're light is in the midfield. Beyond Xhaka and Partey, you're looking at Ceballos, who isn't going to be here next season. And you're looking at Mohamed El Neni, who I personally don't think is good enough. Let me pick out a couple more bits just because we're a little bit pushed for time. Let me see. Jay Dubia says, would you swap Oba plus a little bit of cash for Ødegaard? If we're going to move Oba on, then I would want to get some money in, some significant money in for him. I think we still can. But yeah, I get why people are saying that. I absolutely love Martin Odegaard and I'd love to see him sign. I'm just, I'm a little bit, I feel like we could still get 25, 30 million for Pierre-Emerick Aubameyang, and I'd probably rather do that. And then we use that money to strengthen in that area. And I think that we still need to be looking at signing Martin Odegaard regardless of that. In an ideal world, no, I'd rather they were separate deals if Aubameyang has to leave. Look, if Aubameyang can sort himself out, start converting some of those chances, start showing the right attitude, which for me is the most important thing right now as the club captain, then I'm happy for him to stay. All I've been saying over the last few weeks, and again, there's been a lot of criticism for that, is I would consider it if the right money was on the table, and I stick by that. Let's go to this one from Nicholas. He says, Yasu Harry, how you doing? He says, could it be the case that Arteta is using players in blocks of time, i.e. Holding, Gabriel, Willian? They are being used sparingly. Wouldn't you agree? Yeah, it's a good point. You seem to see players get given runs in the team 3 or 4 weeks and then given a rest, then taken out the firing line, and then maybe you see someone else come in for a period. It's interesting. The way he's rotating the squad is interesting. But what I'll always say is that we do not have the full picture when it comes to the condition of these players, when it comes to their recovery off the back of certain games, when it comes to how they train during the week. And so sometimes some of these decisions will lead to us raising an eyebrow or two. But I think we've just got to trust in the manager on that. When it comes to the physical side of it and the medical side of it, I don't know about you guys, but I'm definitely not a doctor. I'm definitely not a physiotherapist. I'm definitely not someone in the know in that department. And there will be data used by the club's medical staff that gives them indications of where players are more likely to break down, etc., etc. And I think that they'll use that, and that will form a lot of that will form the basis of a lot of the decisions that Mikel Arteta makes. We might not agree with all of them, and in an ideal world, we'd like to have our best players fit and available every single time, but that's not reality. Especially in a season like this one. Right, going to have to leave it there because I need to get back to work. But a big thank you to every single one of you for tuning in. Apologies if I didn't get around to answering one of your questions. If you've got a question, put it in the comments section. after the stream ends, and I will come to it and I will reply to it in written form. So get involved in the comments section. If I've missed your questions, I'd love to pick them up. Don't forget the show is sponsored by manscaped.com. Enter your discount code 90min20 to get 20% off of your order plus free shipping. Make sure you smash the like button if you haven't done so already. There's over 260 of you watching us on YouTube alone right now. So there's no reason why we shouldn't have at least 100 likes by the time the outro plays. So thank you all so much again for your continued support. If you want to become a member, you can do so by clicking the link in the description. I'll be back later on today for a second show. Stay tuned for that. Also, the gas tank is back at 4:10 p.m. UK time. You can catch that on 90 Min's YouTube channel and catch me on the same old Arsenal tonight from 7. Busy day, but it always is on a Monday. But I wouldn't have it any other way. Until next time, take care of yourselves and stay safe. Cheers.
You're listening to the Chronicles of a Gooner, the Arsenal podcast.
I'm Martin Tyler, and you're listening to Harry Symeou.